Hello everyone, Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time. And we're going to talk today, it's another AI related video, so watching AI so you don't have to video. This isn't really just from one specific video, but just some of the common advice given on these AI videos that I thought I would cover a few of these bad advice. It's not all terrible necessarily, but in my personal opinion, all right, I'll put it that way, there's better ways to do things and some things that's absolutely unnecessary. I've got, I think, 7 points. If anyone else has heard any bad advice, and it doesn't just have to be from AI videos or whatever, it can be from real people who claim to be preppers. A lot of times these people are just doing the prepping thing, channels and blogs and what, because it's a niche, it brings in views. And sometimes people are newer to it, and so they're still caught up in certain gimmicks, I'll put it that way. And we all kind of fall for them when we first start jumping into the whole idea of preparedness. And honestly, a lot of these ideas, even though I'm saying AI, it's clear that AI gathered them from real people who think this way, who have this mentality of this is what you got to do and blah, 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 because they got it from somebody else who got it from somebody else. I see it every single day on my own channel. Somebody will come in and say, well, shouldn't you do this? Or why don't you do that? Or so-and-so says you should do it this way. I don't care what so-and-so says. I'm going off my own experience. And I've tried some of those gimmicky things, and I find them to be a waste of money and time. So, starting off, number one, I've seen this one a lot, and personally, this is one I never did. Probably because we don't buy 2-liter bottles of soda. The only time I ever did that in the whole time I've been married and have kids, or ever, because when I was single, I certainly didn't, was for birthday parties and things like that. And then I stopped doing that a long time ago. So people they'll drink all this soda, and then they get the bottles from people who do, and they like to use that for storing small dry things. So that would be things like rice and grains. This is a good way to recycle and store. And I don't want to say those are bad ideas necessarily, even though that's what I'm calling this video. It is just far from the best. Let me put it that way. I mean, if that's all you got, use what you have. So that's where it can have a place, because sometimes you just got to utilize what you have that didn't cost you any money. I get that. And I agree with it in that sense. But for long term, no. I just don't agree. I don't think storing in thin plastic bottles, well, first of all, it's the plastic. And on top of that, those pop bottles, they're pretty thin. And plastic can be permeable. Even Mylar balloons. Mylar balloons can hold the helium for the longest amount of time over latex, but latex is permeable too. This is why over time, even if it's just regular oxygen they're filled with, they will lose oxygen over time because it seeps out through the pores in that, and plastic is no different. So you're never going to be able to get anything fully airtight in a thin plastic bottle. It's just not going to happen. So a much better form of storing up dry things like that would be using glass jars. If you can't afford to buy a bunch of canning jars for this, you can recycle jars, recycle product jars. See, that's another thing we don't get a ton of is product jars, but we do get some, like at Costco when we buy like green olives or the artichoke hearts. We don't do that a ton either, but every now and then we like to have some of these on hand just as a nice snack. And then I take the jars, clean them out really good, and then I vacuum seal. This is vacuum sealed. This is flaxseed in here. Flaxseed will go rancid if not vacuum sealed. So I use Patrick's Chamber for this because you can't use a standard food saver top with any kind of pump, because the food saver top won't fit over something like this. And a lot of your product jars are like that, unless they just happen to be a regular wide mouth, regular or wide mouth size. It's not going to work, but Patrick's chamber works perfectly. I also like to use these for making, more so now, I use these for infusing oils and making tinctures, medicinal tinctures. But you can also use some old-fashioned canning jars, like I have several of these. Now I can't even remember how we came across these, but perfect way to store dried goods. You can't really vacuum seal these, but this is good for things you're not worried about having to vacuum seal, but you can still have an airtight seal because, well, we got a rubber seal here, and we've got this, the bale wire holding the glass lid tightly against the jar. So anything that you can recycle this glass for storing goods like that is perfect. Nuts and seeds are one of the things I like. Oh, and dried meats, because there's always going to be a little fat in that meat and you don't want it to go rancid. So anything that's fatty, you got to vacuum seal it if you want to prevent rancidity. And then those things can last pretty much indefinitely. And as long as they don't lose their seals. But nuts can go rancid probably, I don't know. I know it's within a year that they can go rancid. I just don't know the exact time, and it probably depends on how cold the area is that they're stored. But if they're not vacuum sealed, or if they don't stay vacuum sealed, once they lose that seal, sometime within the year, they're going to go rancid on you. And then you're just going to have to toss them. And especially with something expensive like Brazil nuts, yeah. That's why with those from now on, I will only vacuum seal in jars with the superb lids, because I've yet to see anything cause those to come unsealed, where even the ones like this, I've had some of these come unsealed. Some of them, it takes a lot of bonking around. It probably depends on how high up I pumped it when I was sealing it, but it could also be just small defects in the lid, like when it was originally opened, depending on how you opened it, can cause it to not get a perfect seal when you go to do that. That's why I won't use those anymore for vacuum sealing, but just reserve them for, for any other kind of dry storage. I'm not worried about. Vacuum sealing is fine. So, rice, you don't have to vacuum seal it, but so you could store rice in jars like this, big old pickle jars. That's great. I would recommend that far more than soda bottles. Okay, number 2 is TVP, textured vegetable protein. So if you've never heard of this before, are there any guesses out there what kind of product textured vegetable protein is made from? So it's made from a natural, something that does actually grow in nature, and it is soy. And chances are incredibly likely that it is genetically modified. So there's that. It's more than just the fact that it comes from soy. So you're probably wondering, well, what exactly is it? How do people use it? Well, typically it's made in such a way that people can use it as a hamburger replacement. I've tried it. It's gross. Okay, so there's that. So if you're not so much worried about genetically modified soy, or even just avoiding soy products for the most part in general, the fact that it tastes terrible, don't stock up on a bunch of textured vegetable protein. I actually couldn't believe this one when I was listening to this AI video going, are they seriously recommending textured vegetable protein? Are there people out there that are still recommending this nasty stuff? The reason I had tried it years ago, this was one of the ideas I got from Amy Decision's books, because it saves money on meat. It's cheaper than real meat. And you can use it as a hamburger replacement. So I thought I'd give it a try. Wrong. So I don't recommend that. And just like I'm always saying, if somebody recommends something, even if they just rave rant and rave about it like it's the best thing on earth, most money saving, best thing a prepper, self-sufficient, et cetera, person can do, don't go out and buy 50 pounds of it. I didn't buy 50 pounds of it. I don't remember how much I bought. It was more than I could use. I know that because it was gross. Buy the smallest amount of whatever it is, if you've never tried it before, to try it first. Then decide if it's going to be worth investing your money in. Same thing goes with freeze-dried fruits and vegetables or anything. This is why I like Mother Earth products, because they sell some of their freeze-dried stuff in little small packets so you can at least try it. And then if you like it, you can buy it in bulk if it's something you think you're going to use. Or at that point, if you're finding, wow, I like a lot of these freeze-dried fruits and vegetables, then you could consider investing in a freeze dryer. That's actually one of my other points on here, and I jumped ahead of myself, so I'll just finish going on, talking about that. That was actually point number 4, so I jumped over point number 3. And I mean, that's what I did. And I started off with Honeyville, but with Honeyville, you could only buy these number 10 cans. And I really hated investing in these number 10 cans when I wasn't even sure if I was going to like it. Come to find out, most of the vegetables I did not like. Well, then I found Mother Earth Products, who sells things a lot smaller things. And I teamed up with them because I was really happy with their dried onions and garlic. Some of that stuff I had already been stocking up through Amazon, then went and looked up their company to see what else they had, and then found, wow, they have their own separate website. And so I linked up with them. And then I started trying some of the little smaller packets of things that I'd never tried before, like peas and corn and some other stuff, and found that I do like the peas when added to soups and other such. And I love the sweet corn, even straight from the package. The sweet corn is good, but there's hardly any other those vegetables I like. So I'm glad I had the opportunity to try these things. This was one of the very many reasons why I decided it wasn't worth it to invest in a freeze dryer. Just was not worth it. Even for, I mean, because here's the thing, a lot of the freeze dried stuff I would buy now that, that are left that I would buy are the things that I can't grow anyway. Like the bananas, the pineapple, and the mangoes. Times got tough. I certainly wouldn't be able to go down to the store and buy them and then freeze dry them, and that would be even more expensive. So I'm just going to go, if I want to stock up on some, I'll just stock up on some just to have as a luxury item is what I call those, because it is still very expensive. But that's going to save me money in the long run than buying a freeze dryer that I will hardly ever use. I have 2 videos I did. One I did several years ago on why I don't have a freeze dryer yet. And then like the very next year, I decided, nope, I did more research and decided it is absolutely 100% not worth it to me personally. And so I did another video on it and why I turned down the offer for a free one. Because pretty much every channel you see that's promoting the freeze dryers, they all got theirs for free in exchange for a positive review. Well, they won't tell you in exchange for a positive review. Most places won't say that, but that's what they want. And then because they want you to sell their product for them. And here's the thing I really like about Mother Earth Products is I contacted them and asked them, hey, do you guys do affiliates? Would you be willing to team up with me? And that's how I work now. I won't just accept something anymore, because I've been burned too many times by companies that even when I first tried the product, I thought, this is pretty good. And then I started promoting it. Something quickly went downhill one way or the other. So I won't do that anymore. I'm going to buy a product, pay for it myself. I'm going to use it for a while, find out if I even like it, if it's worth it, what's the longevity of it before I start promoting it to people. By that point that I got that offer, I'm like, no, not interested. Not interested, because it's my goal to help people who cannot afford to make that kind of investment to see that they don't need it. It is an unnecessary thing that people are being practically bullied into believing that you can't put up food of any quality unless you freeze dry it. It's no different than the people that say, if you put up food any other way than fermenting it, it's going to kill you. So that I can't agree with that. There's so many other ways to put up food. Fermenting is a great way, but it is not for everyone. Canning and dehydrating, even without electric dehydrators, because people were, that's like the oldest way to put up food. Salt curing and dehydrating, the two oldest ways to preserve food. And people did this for thousands of years. And they got plenty of nutrients out of it. Trust me, the freeze drying hype about the nutrient value is not what you think it is. It's not what they're making you believe it is. When you do the research, you'll find that yes, maybe with a few things, you're preserving a few more nutrients than dehydrating or canning. But the truth is, as soon as you cook those items, anything that you preserved, it's gone. It's no different than canned or dehydrated when it comes to the nutrient value. And then the whole thing about it storing for 25 years and dehydrated food only stores for like whatever it is they're saying, a few years. That's not true. Dehydrated foods can store for just as long as you have them properly packaged and stored for just as long as freeze-dried. If it's what you really want, if you love freeze-dried foods and you really want a freeze dryer, you think that's going to be the best thing for you, and you can find ways also to freeze dry some of your stuff and sell it to people and that way get some of your money back. Yeah, I don't have a problem with that. That's my thought on that. Just because AI is telling you this, or this YouTuber that you really like is really promoting this freeze dryer, doesn't mean it's right for you. You shouldn't run out and buy either the freeze-dried foods or the freeze dryer until you at least do a little research. Well, the freeze-dried foods as far as buying in small amounts so you can at least try them to see if it's even worth your money and time. But it's definitely not the only way to put up food. Okay, here's another one you've heard me talking about, just like with the freeze dryers, a billion times, and that is oxygen absorbers. My personal opinion, they're a gimmick and nothing more, and they're absolutely unnecessary. Let's remember how I was talking about how people were dehydrating food for thousands of years? They didn't have oxygen absorbers. They didn't even have vacuum sealers. They just put their food up. Now, typically things like meat and that type of stuff, it was so it could get them through the winter. And that's all they needed, was for it to get them through the winter until they were able to get more food. Just like with vegetables, we can the fruits and vegetables that are coming in the spring, summer, and early fall, so they can get us through the winter. Now, preferably for me, I want to dehydrate and can the things I've got coming in. I want to put up enough to get me through 2 to 3 years, just in case for some reason one year we have a fail. Like our plum tree, we got a lot of plums for the first time off of it last year. I'm afraid this year we'll get none. I'm glad I put up a lot because we had a late freeze, and that's the one thing about some of these early flowering fruit trees. If you have a late freeze, you're not getting any fruit off of it that year. Last I looked, I couldn't see any little plums on it, and I think the freeze killed those before they had a chance to even start setting fruit. Let me say this again on the oxygen absorbers, because now I can't even remember what I covered. So I find them to be a complete waste of money, because in probably most cases, you either just don't need them at all, or you can just vacuum seal. So if you're putting stuff in jars that you can vacuum seal, there's no need for oxygen absorbers. You get people that get all technical and say, well, vacuum sealing will only remove X amount % of the oxygen, so you got to put in oxygen absorbers to make up the. In my experience in doing this for however many years it's been, 14 years, putting up food and vacuum sealing it, oxygen absorbers were a complete waste of money and unnecessary. Nothing that I never put oxygen absorbers in anything I vacuum sealed. I have tried them in Mylar bags, because Mylar bags are a little fiddly to try to vacuum seal. Getting the ones with the Ziploc on it and then maybe dropping an oxygen absorber will help that. That's the only place I see them having any value whatsoever. And I still won't do that. Nope, I still won't do it. So what I do instead, if on the rare things that I want to get as much air out of it as possible, and it's in a little zip Mylar bag, is I'll either use the bowl of water method where you dunk the bag down in there and let the weight of the water push the air out and then zip it up. Or like with my grains that I store in buckets for long term. So I put the bag inside a Mylar bag because a lot of the Azure standard grains and beans and whatnot come in paper bags, which I'd prefer. But obviously they can get air in there. So then put that inside the Mylar. So the Mylar is not touching the grains. This is kind of what I've switched to more and more. And then take that bag and then push out as much air as I can and then seal it up. If it's a zip, I zip it. If it's not, doesn't have a zip on it, I have a flat iron that I bought years ago because I wanted to try straightening my hair. Wow, there's another waste of time. But I found that's really perfect for sealing up the Mylar bags. Just, and there you go. And that's worked great without wasting money on oxygen absorbers that may or may not work. I bought some that were absolutely useless from the moment I opened them. Again, personal opinion. Nobody be offended if you feel like you have to have oxygen absorbers and you think that's the best thing. I think they're a waste of money, and I just, I don't want to see people wasting their money, especially now, on stuff that's pretty much just a gimmick and unnecessary. You'd be better investing that money into food or investing that money into a brake bleeder pump for like $20, $25 that can last you. Mine's lasted for 10 years, and you can keep resealing a jar. So if I open a vacuum sealed jar to get something a little bit out, but like, let's say the Brazil nuts, but I don't think I'm going to get back into it right away, then I want to vacuum seal it up. I don't have to throw in new oxygen absorbers. I could just vacuum seal it for free. When you're first getting started into putting up food, there's nothing wrong with going and stocking up on some canned goods. I highly recommend it. That's what we did at first before we really got serious with our garden. We were like, wow, we should probably put up food. So we put up a bunch of canned goods to start with. Went to Costco, bought peaches and corn and beans and a bunch of other stuff and put it up just so we'd have something. While we started working on putting in our garden and getting serious about growing food for ourselves. And not that we grow everything for ourselves. We grow as much as we can. And we're always trying to learn a better way to do things and how to grow more of the things we need the most. Here's the issue, though, with canned goods that you buy from a store. And we're talking about in metal cans. In my experience now, as someone's been canning for quite a while, is that your store-bought canned foods are not going to have the shelf life the same way your own home canned foods are in jars. And that might sound surprising to some people who are kind of new to this whole thing, but let me explain something. Especially when you're talking about anything that's acidic. So tomatoes or fruit that you buy in metal cans, well, the acid in there starts breaking down that can, and eventually that can's going to lose its seal. Remember all that Costco stuff I was talking about? Well, it kind of got, when I started home canning stuff and it tasted so much better, a lot of that stuff sort of got forgotten. When I finally came across them again, I'm like, oh, I forgot I still had these. The cans, I started pulling out the cans and they hardly weighed anything. Come to find out, somewhere along the way, they had lost their seal and everything inside had dried out. Even if it's a low acid thing, like green beans and corn, still over time, these things start taking on the flavor of the can. So in that way, they're practically inedible because they taste terrible. And who knows what all stuff you're getting in there. I've never had that happen with home canned foods. Things I've had put up for years and years and like, oh, we need to start working through this. And it still tasted as good as the day that I canned it up. Maybe the color wasn't quite as pretty, but the flavor was still there. There's nothing wrong with buying store-bought canned goods, but you just need to realize you're going to want to work through those faster and worry about working through those first. than your home canned stuff. As long as it's all your home canned stuff stays sealed, it'll stay good for many years. My thoughts on that, just from my own experience and what I've seen. Oh my goodness, this one. I've never heard anyone say this. I've only heard this come from AI. And that is storing MSG. Just like the TVP, no, no, and even more no. Now, I honestly don't remember what MSG stands for, but I'm sure most of people have heard of MSG. It's used to flavor foods. That's an absolute no. Is it monosodium glutamate? Is that what it is? But not only is it just bad for you, it'll actually increase your food cravings. And it can be somewhat addictive, if I remember correctly. Why store MSG when you're far better off just storing salt? Whether it be sea salt, Himalayan salt, Redmond real salt, whatever's available to you at a decent price, preferably that which is loaded with a lot of minerals to just give you another source of minerals. But I don't know what MSG costs. I've never bought it. I think it's a stupid, stupid idea. And that one I will say, because I'm assuming like I said, I've only ever heard of AI giving people this advice. Salt. It has many, many uses, not just for seasoning your food. You can use it for cleaning. You can use it for killing weeds. You can use it for preserving foods. You can do salt curing. Remember what I said earlier, salt curing meats was a very common way to preserve meats long term. Number 7, I did kind of already cover this one, and this is buying massive amounts of any one product that you have never tried. So if AI or a live person, like a real living, breathing human being with skin on, is telling you, you need to run out and buy, I know I just said this in another video, but I'm going to say it again because I feel like it's one of those things that can't be said enough. Because when people start getting into being prepared for whatever life's going to throw their way, they feel like, oh, I need to go buy, 150 pounds of rice and 150 pounds of beans. What if you hate beans? What if you don't like rice? What if your family won't eat any of that? There's so many things like that. I mean, I use that because that's what so many people are told. Rice and beans, complete protein. Well, there's other options out there. I do agree that rice and beans are excellent things to store because they're cheap compared to a lot of other things. And they store for a long period of time, and you can just really start putting those things up. But again, I say, start even with that. Start with something small because there's so many different types of dry beans out there. Maybe you don't like pinto beans, but you like red kidney beans, or maybe you like lima beans, or maybe you hate lima beans and you like the pinto beans better. And great northern beans. There's so many different types of beans. And then you've got lentils of all varieties. I'm just now really getting into lentils and bought 4 different types from Azure Standard. And they look beautiful in these jars with the red and the gold and the green and then the dark green. It's beautiful. And I tried a little bit of each in a stew that I made, and it was good. So, and lentils are nice because they cook up way faster than dry beans. But at any rate, find the things that make more sense to you. That's going to not only give you a good source of protein, but has multiple uses and multiple nutrients. And then try mixing things up. Instead of putting up 150 pounds of pinto beans, maybe put up 5 pounds of pinto beans, 5 pounds of red kidney beans, 5 pounds of lentils, et cetera, or 5 pounds like I did, 5 pounds of each of these different colors that I thought I'd try out. Yeah, don't just run out and buy a whole, or even, like the freeze-dried foods or the milk powder. Like I have a 5-gallon bucket of powdered milk stored in our long-term storage. I'm not going to tell people you should run out and get a 5-gallon bucket of powdered milk because you may hate it and not even like using it to make sauces and gravies. Whenever you're looking at anybody's talking about anything, it's not that that particular food isn't a good idea to store. Sardines, for instance. A lot of people hate sardines. Patrick does not like sardines. I like sardines, so I don't mind stocking up on some. Some people, they just stock a ton of sardines because they love sardines so much, but that's not going to be for everyone. So always try something, see if it's going to be for you, see if your family's going to even like it. Maybe if you like it, put up a little bit. If your family, you find they really like it, then you can put up a lot. It doesn't matter what it is or who's talking about what or who's telling you that you should grow a lot of this or that. It's all got to be tailored to you and what you and your family is going to eat. Otherwise, you're completely wasting money and space. Let's not forget the space these things take up, which with that said, remember, if you have limited space, you can get creative and start finding ways to store your food, even if you live in a little small apartment. There's so many ways to be creative with your space that you might not even thought of. I did a video on this. It's a food storage for small spaces. I did it a few years ago where I threw in a whole bunch of ideas. Some of them are what I do. Some of them are ideas I got from others and kind of compiled it together. And I'm pretty sure under that video, some people shared their own ideas and comments as well. And thanks for coming in. Take care and God bless.